On March 19, 2025, Commander Sarah Mitchell became the only person aboard the International Space Station. The emergency evacuation had taken 11 minutes. 5 crew members loaded into the Soyuz capsule and undocked, leaving Mitchell alone to monitor a critical systems failure while Mission Control coordinated the repair mission. She was supposed to be alone for 72 hours. But 26 hours into her solo watch, Mitchell sent a message to Houston that was never made public. 3 words that changed everything. Someone's still here. This is what happened during those 72 hours. This is the record they classified. The International Space Station is not designed for solitude. Since its first modules launched in 1998, the station has maintained continuous human occupation. There have always been at least 2 crew members aboard, usually 6. The station is 356 feet long, with a pressurized volume, roughly equivalent to a 6-bedroom house. But in orbit 250 miles above Earth, even that space feels small when systems fail. On March 18, 2025, at 14:37 Greenwich Mean Time, the station's primary cooling system began showing erratic temperature readings in the Zvezda service module. The Russian-built module housed critical life support systems, and a cascade failure there could compromise the entire station. Mission Control in Houston reviewed the telemetry data. So did their Russian counterparts at Roscosmos Mission Control in Korolev. The decision was unanimous. Evacuate all but 1 crew member. Someone needed to stay behind to monitor systems, execute emergency protocols if needed, and provide real-time data while the ground teams worked on solutions. Commander Sarah Mitchell volunteered. She had spent 127 days aboard the station during her previous mission. She knew every module, every system, every sound the station made as it creaked and groaned through its 90-minute orbits around Earth. If anyone could handle 72 hours alone, it was Mitchell. The evacuation procedure was textbook. At 1922 Greenwich Mean Time, the 5 other crew members, 2 Americans, 2 Russians, and 1 Japanese astronaut, sealed themselves inside the Soyuz MS-24 spacecraft docked to the Rassvet module. Mitchell helped them through the pre-departure checklist, checked their seals, and gave the final authorization to undock. She watched through the cupola window as the Soyuz fired its thrusters and drifted away from the station. The capsule became a bright point of light against the black of space, then disappeared below the curve of Earth's horizon. Then she was alone. The station was never truly silent. There was always the hum of ventilation fans, the whir of gyroscopes maintaining attitude control, the occasional clunk of the station's robotic arm shifting position. But without crew voices, without movement in the adjacent modules, the sounds seemed louder, more present. Mitchell spent the first 6 hours running diagnostics on the cooling system. The temperature readings had stabilized, which was good. Mission Control suspected a faulty sensor rather than an actual failure, but they needed time to analyze the data before bringing the crew back. At hour 8, Mitchell ate a rehydrated meal in the Zvezda module and checked in with Houston. Everything nominal. Systems stable. She reported feeling fine. Perhaps a little strange being alone, but nothing concerning. At hour 12, she strapped herself into a sleep restraint in the Harmony module and tried to rest. Sleep in space was always difficult. The station passed from daylight to darkness every 45 minutes as it orbited Earth, and the constant hum of equipment never stopped. She dozed fitfully, waking every hour to check systems. At hour 26, Mitchell was in the Japanese Kibo laboratory module, reviewing the cooling system schematics on a laptop when she heard it. A sound that didn't belong. A metallic click, sharp, distinct, coming from somewhere forward in the station. From the direction of the Node 2 module. Mitchell stopped moving, held her breath, listened. Nothing. She pushed off toward Node 2, floating through the narrow corridor. The module was empty, nothing out of place. but the sound had been real. And then she saw it. The hatch to the Columbus module was open. She had closed that hatch 8 hours ago. She was certain of it. Mitchell floated to the Columbus module hatch and examined it carefully. The European-built laboratory module extended from Node 2, and standard procedure during reduced crew operations was to close off modules not in active use to conserve power and simplify life support management. She distinctly remembered closing this hatch after her last equipment check, but now it hung open, secured by its latch in the open position. Mitchell's first thought was pressure differential. Sometimes hatches moved slightly due to air circulation patterns, but this hatch wasn't just ajar. It was fully open and latched. That required deliberate action. She keyed her communication headset. Houston, ISS. I'm at the Columbus module. The hatch is open. I closed it during my 1800 systems check. Can you confirm no commands were sent to open it remotely? The response came after the usual 4-second delay. ISS Houston, stand by. Mitchell waited, floating in Node 2, staring into the darkened Columbus module. The lights were off in there. She'd shut them down to save power. But sunlight streaming through the station's windows provided enough illumination to see the module's interior. Racks of scientific equipment, experiment lockers, all secured. Nothing moving. Houston's voice returned. ISS, Houston, we show no remote commands to any hatch mechanisms. Can you confirm the hatch was definitely closed during your 1800 check? Affirmative, Houston. I sealed it myself, logged it in my personal checklist. Another pause. Copy that, ISS. Possible explanation could be thermal expansion affecting the latch mechanism. We're reviewing the environmental data. In the meantime, recommend you perform a visual inspection of Columbus and secure the hatch again. Mitchell acknowledged and pushed herself into the Columbus module. She activated the lights. The module illuminated in harsh white fluorescence, revealing the same equipment racks and experiment stations she'd seen countless times. Nothing out of place. She checked the hatch mechanism, functioning normally, no obvious defects. She was about to return to Node 2 when she noticed something on one of the laptop screens mounted to an equipment rack. It was active. Displaying a file directory. Mitchell floated closer. The laptop was one of several general-use computers distributed throughout the station. She hadn't used this one in days. It should have been in sleep mode. But the screen showed recently accessed files. Time-stamped, 23:14 Greenwich Mean Time. 3 hours ago. While she was sleeping. Mitchell stared at the screen, her heart rate increasing. The file access log showed someone had opened the station's manifest database, the comprehensive inventory of every piece of equipment, supply container, and scientific payload aboard the ISS. The access time was clearly marked, 23 hours, 14 minutes, and 37 seconds Greenwich Mean Time. She had been asleep then, strapped into her sleep restraint in the Harmony module. She keyed her headset again. Houston, ISS. I have a situation here. She explained what she'd found. The file access. The timestamp. Houston went silent for longer than usual. When they responded, there was a new voice on the line. Not the flight director she'd been speaking with. Someone else. More senior. ISS, Houston. Commander Mitchell, this is Flight Director Chen. Can you confirm your physical location at the timestamp in question? I was asleep in Harmony, alone. And you're certain no one else is aboard the station? The question hung in the air. Mitchell felt a chill despite the station's regulated temperature. Houston, I watched the Soyuz depart. I've been alone for 26 hours. Copy that, ISS. We're reviewing possibilities. Could be a system glitch, automated process, accessing files, stand by. But Mitchell was already thinking about the hatch, the open hatch she was certain she'd closed. She pushed back through Node 2, moving toward the Russian segment of the station. The Zvezda service module, Poisk, Rasvet, where the Soyuz had been docked. Everything appeared normal. She continued forward into the Zarya module, the station's oldest component, launched in 1998. Storage racks lined the walls, packed with supplies and equipment. She checked the manifest database from her tablet, comparing it against what she could see. Everything accounted for. She was moving back toward the American segment when she heard it again. That metallic click. Behind her. She spun around. The hatch between Zarya and Zvezda was closing. Slowly, deliberately. Mitchell lunged forward, catching the hatch before it sealed. She pulled it open and stared into Zvezda. Empty. The module stretched before her, its cramped interior packed with equipment. But no one there, no movement. Houston, ISS. I just observed a hatch closing on its own. Zarya to Zvezda. I need explanation right now. The delay felt longer than 4 seconds. ISS, Houston. We're not seeing any commands from our end. No automated sequences running that would affect hatch operations. Commander Mitchell, we need you to perform a complete station survey. Every module. Confirm you are alone. Mitchell's throat felt tight. Houston, what aren't you telling me? Static. Then, ISS, just perform the survey, document everything, report back in 30 minutes. The transmission ended. Mitchell was alone with the sounds of the station, and the growing certainty that she wasn't alone at all. Mitchell spent the next 20 minutes methodically checking every module. She started at the far end of the American segment, the Tranquility node, and the cupola observation deck. Empty. She checked storage lockers, crew quarters, even the spaces behind equipment racks where someone could theoretically hide. Nothing. She moved through the station module by module, Unity, Destiny, the permanent multipurpose module, every space she could access. Alone. But the evidence contradicted that certainty. In the Destiny laboratory module, she found another laptop active, another file opened, this one showing crew medical records, specifically her own medical file from her current mission physical. Someone had been reviewing her health data. At 2:47 Greenwich Mean Time, 40 minutes ago, while she was conducting the station survey. Mitchell's hands were shaking now. She keyed Houston again, reported what she'd found. The response was terse, almost evasive. ISS, continue the survey. Check the Russian segment again. Be thorough. She pushed toward the Russian modules, moving faster now, through Zvezda, through Poisk, into the small Piers docking compartment at the far end of the Russian segment. And there she found it. A crew's sleep station in Zvezda, one of the small private crew quarters, had its curtain drawn. Mitchell had checked this same sleep station an hour ago. The curtain had been open. Now it was closed. She floated closer, her breath quick and shallow. Houston, she said quietly, I'm at crew quarters 3 in Zvezda. The privacy curtain is closed. It wasn't closed during my previous check. ISS, can you confirm? Mitchell pulled the curtain open. The sleep restraint was occupied. A figure in a so-called spacesuit, strapped into the sleeping bag, face obscured by the helmet's sun visor. Mitchell's scream caught in her throat. She grabbed the figure, pulled it toward her. The suit was light, too light. She flipped up the sun visor. The helmet was empty. Just a suit. Arranged in the sleep station to look occupied. The arms positioned naturally, the helmet angled as if the person inside was sleeping. But no one inside. Mitchell's mind raced. She grabbed the suit, checked the name tag. Volkov. Commander Dmitry Volkov. He'd left on the Soyuz. She'd watched him board. But his spare suit was here, arranged, positioned. By someone. Houston, Mitchell said, her voice barely steady. I found one of Volkov's spare suits. It's been staged to look like someone's sleeping in it. Someone's been moving things around the station. A sound behind her. That metallic click. The hatch between Zvezda and Zarya was closing again. But this time, Mitchell saw movement through the narrowing gap. A flash of white, a sleeve. Someone in the adjacent module, wearing an EVA suit. Someone who'd been hiding, watching. Someone who was still here. Mitchell launched herself toward the closing hatch, but it sealed before she could reach it. She pounded on the metal. "Houston! There's someone else on station! Someone in Zarya! Lock down all hatches from your end!" But hatch control from the ground was limited. Many hatches operated on manual mechanisms precisely to prevent remote lockouts during emergencies. Mitchell looked around Zvezda for anything she could use. A tool. Anything. The station's communication system crackled, but not Houston's voice. A new voice, distorted, coming through the internal comm system. "Commander Mitchell." She froze. The voice continued. "I apologize for the deception. It was necessary." "Who are you?" Mitchell demanded. "Identify yourself." "My name is Dr. Alexei Petrov. I was aboard Zarya module for the past 17 days. Undetected." Mitchell's mind reeled. 17 days. Through 2 crew rotations. "That's impossible. We inventory everything. We check every module daily. I am very good at hiding, and I had help from the ground. Certain people who wished to conduct an experiment." "What experiment?" "Psychological resilience and isolation. How long before an astronaut realizes they are not alone? How they respond to uncertainty. Your performance has been exemplary, Commander. All data transmitted to my sponsors." Mitchell felt sick. "You're telling me this was a psychological test? That Mission Control knew?" "Some at Mission Control. Not all. The cooling system failure was genuine, convenient timing, but my presence here is intentional." "Where are you now?" "Zarya, but I will be leaving shortly. There's an emergency Soyuz procedure I can execute. And once I'm gone, you'll be truly alone, as you were always meant to be." Mitchell moved to the Zvezda control panel, pulling up hatch override commands. She could manually unlock the Zarya hatch, but that would take time. "Dr. Petrov, you need to stop. This is..." "Goodbye, Commander Mitchell. Thank you for your cooperation." The comm went silent. Mitchell worked frantically at the controls, got the hatch unlocked, pulled it open. Zarya was empty. But through the next hatch, she could see Poisk. And beyond that, the docking port where a second Soyuz capsule was attached, one used for emergencies, kept fueled and ready. She pushed through, moving as fast as she could in zero gravity. She reached the Soyuz hatch just as it sealed from the inside. Through the small window, she saw a figure in a white spacesuit. A hand raised in farewell. Then the Soyuz undocked, thrusters firing, carrying the intruder away into space. Mission Control came back online immediately after the unauthorized Soyuz departure. Flight Director Chen's voice was urgent. "ISS, Houston, we tracked the emergency Soyuz undocking. Commander Mitchell, are you injured?" "Negative, Houston, but I want answers, now." The delay felt longer than usual. "ISS, you were part of a classified psychological study authorized by joint NASA-Roscosmos agreement. Dr. Alexei Petrov's presence aboard the station was known to select personnel. The study was designed to test awareness and response to anomalous presence. You were not informed because consent would invalidate the experiment," Mitchell finished, her voice cold. "The study had full ethics board approval. All international protocols were..." "Houston, shut up. Where's Petrov now?" "The Soyuz is performing a standard deorbit burn. He'll land in Kazakhstan in 4 hours. Recovery teams are standing by." Mitchell looked out the window at Earth turning below. The station would pass over the Kazakhstan landing zone in approximately 2 orbits. Commander Mitchell, Houston said carefully, our replacement crew will arrive in 18 hours. You'll be debriefed. This incident will be reviewed thoroughly. This incident will be buried thoroughly, you mean? No response. Mitchell floated to the cupola and stared at Earth. She'd spent 72 hours thinking she was losing her mind. 72 hours of psychological torture disguised as science. Commander, we need you too. Mitchell removed her communication headset and set it floating in the center of the module. For the next 18 hours, until the crew arrived, she stayed in the cupola, watching Earth. Alone. Finally, actually alone. And when the replacement crew docked and asked if she was okay, she gave them a simple answer. I want to go home. She never flew in space again. The psychological study was never published. Dr. Petrov's landing was never officially recorded. And Commander Sarah Mitchell's experience remains classified to this day. New horror sci-fi every Monday and Thursday. Subscribe for more stories from the edge of human endurance. This was 72 Hours Alone on the ISS.